Have you ever found yourself sitting somewhere, standing somewhere, driving, walking, and kind of ask yourself the question, how did I get here? Like, how did I end up here in this moment? Now, maybe you're like me, you've been driving down Main Street. Every other year or so, I drive down Main Street. Usually it hits me right around Mariners on Main. I'll be driving down the Main Street thinking, how did I get here? Now, I know some of you are thinking, he is getting old. It's sneaking up on him. It's biting him in the rear end. I don't mean like, how did I get here? I forget. Like, how did I get in Yarmouth? How did that happen? I'm an Ontario kid, born and raised in a different denomination in Ontario, and I knew the East Coast existed. I didn't know there was a Yarmouth. I didn't know it existed. But how am I out here? And I'll drive down Main Street once in a while, and it'll just dawn on me, what am I doing in Yarmouth? Now, I don't say it begrudgingly. I'm not imprisoned here. This isn't pastoral purgatory. That's not what I'm implying. I found myself at the beach with the kids. And I'll be standing watching this incredible sunset with the ocean as the backdrop. And watching 3 kids run around and be like, is this my life? How did I get here? I have 3 kids. I'll be walking downtown with Julia and she'll be talking and I should be listening. But I'm thinking to myself, how did I get a wife? How did I convince anybody to marry me? Amen, thank you. How did I get here? You've been there, right? I walk around the church offices sometimes and see these young people in offices that I used to sit in. And I look in the mirror and see gray hair in my beard and think, I thought I was the young pastor. Where did these young kids come along that are younger than the vehicles I drive? Like, how did this happen? And you have found yourself doing the exact same thing, haven't you? You walk into work and you unlock your office and think, man, I've been coming to this office for 20 years. Where'd the time go? How did I get here? Like, how did this happen? I remember the first day I unlocked my new office. Maybe you've been getting ready to get on board of your boat this fall thinking, man, this is my 30th season fishing. Man, how did I get here? You look at your kids having kids and you think to yourself, how are my kids having kids? I'm far too young for this. I'm only 35. How could I have a 40-year-old kid? When did this happen? You sit around the coffee at Tim Hortons looking at all your friends. You're like, when did my friends get so old? When did this happen? Man, so-and-so's been gone for 2 decades. It feels like they just passed. Man, where did the time go? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's funny how you can get on the journey of life and think, oh, how did I get here? Some of you have been driving to Halifax on the 103 and you're cruising along, sipping your coffee, and all of a sudden you see the sign for Bridgewater, and you think, I never saw Shelburne. Where did Shelburne go? You've had that experience. You could drive the 103, most of you, the South Shore people too, the South Shore natives, you could drive the 103 blindfolded, couldn't you? You know every twist and turn, every nook and cranny of that highway. You know every mile marker. When you bring a guest, they're like, do you stop for coffee? No, not here. I stop for coffee at this next exit. Like, you have all your mile markers nailed right down to a science. The danger is you can do that drive and zone out and think, I don't remember seeing certain landmarks. I was drifting off thinking of something. The hard part of life is that so much of it is regular and normal, huge chunks can pass you by. And everyone says to me, you think time goes fast now, watch as your kids get older. And so much of life is getting up, making coffee, making breakfast, get in the car, going to work. Work your day, hate your day, go home, eat some supper, stare at the bottom of an empty glass, and for another night, go to bed, tired, get up, make some coffee, go to work, and around and around and around it goes. And there are people who think like, is this it? I think I've done this drive a few times. It's getting a little bit monotonous. I'm blurring. I missed all of August. Where did August go? How are we at September? The danger is if you get caught in a rut of monotony and ordinary living for too long, you can fall asleep at the wheel and not be paying attention. And all of a sudden, years go by. Huge seasons of life goes by. How did I get here? And for some people, they get caught in that rut long enough, they don't just question the seasons, they question their very purpose. They look back and think, where'd those 5 years go? Did they even matter? I did some stuff, I saw some things, like, I don't know. And you'll hear people start asking the question, like, do I even matter? Like, what's the point of getting up and doing this rat race over and over and over and over again? Well, I just want to say loud and clear, yes, it matters. Let me say loud and clear, yes, you matter. Everything in this world will try to convince you the opposite and lull you to sleep. I want you to know, and we're going to hang here for a few weeks, you matter. The Tuesdays you live matter. The places you go to work matter. Dropping the kid off at school for the 795th time matters. Getting up and mowing the lawn again, it matters. And so for a few weeks, if you will hang with me, I would love to stir up hope and faith that you absolutely were made for this. Whatever your this is, you were made for it, and it is on purpose. If you have your Bibles, I want to turn to just an absolutely awesome and encouraging story, and I fear that some of you might not find it. So let's do a good old-fashioned sword drill. If you grew up in church, let's find Judges. Anyone know where the book of Judges is? If you brought your iPhone, just scroll. It'll save you a ton of time. We're heading to the Old Testament, the book of Judges, chapter 6. We'll get back to Luke in a few weeks, but Judges chapter 6 contains an awesome little story that you could read in 5 minutes if you want later today. But Judges chapter 6, I'll give you a second to get there. Judges chapter 6, Old Testament, early on in it, scroll down to verse 11. Judges chapter 6, and if you're like, I'm not searching for it, it's on the screen behind me. Now the angel of the Lord came and sat under Terebinth at Ophrah, which belonged to Joash the Abizrite. I was going to get that one right. While his son Gideon was beating out the wheat and the winepress to hide from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, "The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor." And Gideon said to him, "Please, Lord, if the Lord is with us, then why then has all this happened to us? And where are all the wonderful deeds that our fathers recounted to us, saying, 'Did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt?' But now the Lord has forsaken us and given us into the hand of Midian." And the Lord turned to him and said, "Go in this might of yours and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Do not I send you?" And he said to him, "Please, Lord, how can I save Israel? Behold, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house." And the Lord said to him, "But I will be with you, and you shall strike the Midianites as one man." And he said to him, "If now I have found favor in your eyes, then show me a sign that it is you who speak with me. Please do not depart from here until I come to you and bring out my present and set it before you." And he said, "I will stay till you return." It's a great little story. You catch Gideon in a wine press working over the wheat. Like, the story kicks off with God meeting Gideon in the ordinary. That's what you're supposed to notice. And Gideon is in there, he's got the wheat, and he is walking over the wheat, crushing it and preparing it so they can use it for cooking. Now, when he's walking on it, they also could use like a stone to crush it. They'd use cattle to crush the wheat. But either way, you'd put the wheat on the ground, and somebody would literally spend time just crushing the wheat. That's the work. It's peeling potatoes. It's peeling apples. It's simple, simple work. The interesting part is not the work, but where he's doing the work. It says he's doing the work in the winepress. Now, normally, you would thresh the wheat on a flat ground, kind of like this. You would walk around, you would crush it, and then when the wind or breeze came along, it would blow away all the chaff. All the stuff you don't want, all the things you don't need for cooking with wheat, you would crush it, the wind would come along, and it would take it away, job practically done. Gideon is doing it inside a huge wine press. A wine press has got huge walls, and it would stand up around Gideon. They would normally put grapes in it, crush the grapes in a wine press and collect the juice. Gideon has put the wheat into this big barrel and has put himself inside the barrel to crush it there. Now, your text did say to hide from the Midianites. If you go back to chapter 6 and start there, it says that Israel was not listening to God. They were being disobedient. And so God had released Midian to come against Israel and wreak havoc on them for their disobedience. And so it says the Israelites were getting good at hiding in caves and dens, because when the Midianites would roll into town, they would take all the harvest, they would take all the food, all the hard work that Israel had done, Midianites would take it as their own. So they've been really good at hiding in the face of opposition. So you got Gideon, who could be doing it in the open, risking being seen by the Midianites, but climbs himself into the wine press, and there he is walking in circles, doing the most boring work maybe on God's green earth. In hiding, unseen by friend and foe. While he's in the ordinary, God shows up. When will we learn? You may hide from people, you don't hide from God. God shows up and finds Gideon in the ordinary, and then God works to redefine Gideon's identity. You have God showing up and speaking over him like, hey, yo, Gideon, mighty man of valor. Gideon's like, what? Yeah, hey, mighty guy, tough guy, guy of significance, valor, you. What? Valor? I'm crushing wheat. This is the least significant work I've ever been assigned. Literally, the cattle can do it. I just want to hide, so I'll do it. Valor? No. Significance? No. I'm just walking in circles, crushing wheat. Valor? You've got the wrong guy. Mighty man? Oh, you've definitely got the wrong guy. Mighty, the thought of the Midianites coming has put me into hiding. Mighty men don't hide. Mighty men take on opposition. I am in hiding, doing boring work. Mighty man of valor, you've got the wrong guy. And then God ups the ante. Hey, I'd like to use you, guy hiding, doing boring work, to save the nation. The nation. All of it. Yeah. Well, here's the problem. It's not bad enough that I'm hiding. It's not bad enough that I'm a wheat crusher. I am from the weakest clan in the whole tribe. Our clan is the Bad News Bears. Our clan, we're the ones that have the losing season every single year. Like, we're that group. And here's the deal. On the Bad News Bears, I'm not even the bench warmer. I'm the water boy. They don't even let me play. So you've got the wrong guy. Gideon has already defined Gideon by looking inside Gideon. Don't miss this. Gideon, creation, has decided who Gideon is. God steps in and redefines who Gideon is. No, I said, you are a mighty man of valor. I said, go in your strength. I, Creator, will define creation. See, there's this temptation to discover our identity. And we forget that our identity needs to be declared over us. You don't look inside yourself to find yourself. The Creator speaks over creation. And so Gideon has a choice in this moment. He's the guy walking in the wine press over and over and over. He's heard the word of the Lord come to him and define who he will be, and now he has a choice. Does God's opinion take precedence, or do my circumstances take precedence? Is God's presence on me and in my life going to outweigh my circumstances, or are the circumstances going to outweigh God's presence? Because let's be honest, Gideon's pushbacks aren't wrong. Gideon's not delusional. Gideon, much like the younger prodigal son who comes back like, I've done some things. The father really wouldn't want my kind back. It's not that he's wrong. It's not that Gideon is seeing wrong. It's that Gideon is only seeing his circumstances. And Gideon in that moment needs to decide which has authority in his life, his circumstances or the word of God. And I wonder how long it took Gideon to decide that. How many laps did he do in the wine press deciding what's it going to be? Word of the Lord or stick to what I know? If you read the story, which you can in a few minutes, he does climb out of the wine press. He does believe God. Gideon does believe God's words in his life. He climbs out of the wine press, goes into the temple where they have put up idols to the gods, takes down the idols. The next morning, people come into the temple, like, hey, what happened to all the idols? I think Gideon took them down. Get Gideon, let's beat him up. And the father steps in like, how about this? If Gideon upset these gods, let these gods take care of Gideon. Like these false gods, we've had idols, if they're so upset, they can handle Gideon. Nothing happens. Gideon then keeps going, and he assembles the 32,000 person army to go fight the Midians to save the nation as God declared. And God said, you know what? If you go into battle with 32,000 people and win, you might think your own strength won the day. When I told you go in strength, I wasn't implying your strength. I was talking about my strength. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to whittle that army down before you go into battle. Like, how far down do you want to go? I've got 32,000. Oh, how's 300 sound? You want me to go into battle with 300 people? Yes. And then when you win, you will have to know God did this. It's an awesome story. Phenomenal story. And all week long, reading that short little story, I found myself praying for the Gideons that will be listening to this sermon today. I found myself thinking about the Gideons that are in the room right now. I found myself thinking about people in this room who are like, man, I think I'm a Gideon. And you feel like, man, my name's not Gideon, but my life is just walking in circles. I do the most boring work that nobody cares about. Nobody sees me. I just walk in circles every single day. And that's all my story is. I've been praying for some Gideons in this room who don't even know when it happened, but they climbed into a wine press and started walking in circles. Now here's what I swear the Lord said this to me. Your people aren't in there hiding from opposition. They're hiding from me. I think there are people in this room that didn't crawl into a wine press to walk in circles for decades at a time. They climbed in there because they're actually afraid of God. And while Gideon was afraid of what the opposition might do with his life, I think far more often in church, there are people who climb into a wine press for fear of what God might do with their life. And I think there are times we climb into a wine press, we don't even like it, but it's comfortable, it's predictable. Each day brings a certain level of rhythm to it. And if I hear God's voice and if I get out, I don't know what that will mean for my life. And so we meet people all the time who think God is calling them to get out. And while they're actually curious about what that might be, they would actually rather stay in the safe and the predictable thing they don't like than to risk with God. But as I prayed, it didn't feel like any sense of like beat up God's people at church on Sunday kind of sermon. It felt like, man, stir up. Because I think what happens, just like on the drive on the 103 to Halifax, where kilometers can tick off because of familiarity, that round and around and around the wine press can feel so familiar, we forget to listen for the voice of God. And I've been praying this week, like, Lord, if there are some Gideons in this room like him, would you meet them in the wine press? God, would you show up in the ordinary? Would you show up in the mundane? Would you show up with people who feel like their life is stuck, purposeless, rudderless, like there's no clear vision? Like, God, before any of that, show up and speak a word to people stuck in a wine press. I've been praying for some people to hear and hear clearly, not the pastor, the Lord. I think we forget sometimes his voice and his words actually come with authority. I think we forget sometimes that, yes, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, but we forget sometimes to visit the fact that for God so loved AJ that he gave his only son. Like, man, Christ did that for me specifically. We read passages where the word says that we are the royal priesthood. Like, well, not us. Like, there's some people in long robes, they're the priests. There's even our guy at church who preaches just like a homeless person, but he's our priest. I'm not a priest, he's the priest. No, the word says you are a chosen race. You are a royal priesthood. We forget when we read passages in Ephesians that the blood of Christ is on you and set you free and called you out of your old life for good works. We read in Acts chapter 1:8 where the disciples have seen Jesus go to the cross, seen him lay down his life, go to the grave, be resurrected, appear to 500 people, and they're all rallied into a frenzy. And Jesus says, go into an upper room. I want you to sit, I want you to hang out there for a while. Like, oh, what's going to happen then? Well, I'm going to send my spirit on you. You will receive power. You will receive dynamite when the Holy Spirit comes. Well, then what do you want us to do then? Jump into a wine press and walk in circles for decades. Wait, what? Yeah, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the cross, lay down my life, set people free, send my spirit to live inside of them. For what? To walk in circles in a wine press? That you would be my witnesses. You can't be a witness in a wine press. You can't do the things that God is speaking over you and I while hiding in a wine press. So I've been praying, Lord, let your voice ring out again today. Let people hear your voice, but it's not just hearing it, you actually have to believe it. Like, it actually has to move deep inside your heart. Like, I actually have to believe that this is not just true, it's true for me. Like, Gideon tried to skirt out from underneath it. Gideon tried to say, like, dude, you got the wrong person. Like, no, Gideon, this is for you. I do wonder how many laps he circled wrestling that out. Are you sure? The word says that when he did get out, he said, I need to test the spirit. Like, if this is of God, let me go get a sacrifice. I'll bring back my sacrifice. I'll present it before you. And God, if this is you, I sure need to know. Because if this is my conscience, if this is my need to be needed, I'm not doing this. This had better be you. So he brings out a sacrifice. The angel, boom, flames, it's gone. Man, God has showed up to me in this moment. Belief exploded. I think there's some people that need to start believing that God is speaking to them specifically. I'll say it this way. I think there's some people in this room who need to believe that God would want to speak to you specifically. That you think you're uninteresting. You think you're insignificant. You, like Gideon, have decided, I'm from Pubnico. What good comes from Pubnico? I'm from Tusket. I'm from Weymouth. Like, boo, that's not Vancouver. God doesn't use people like us. And some of you, like Gideon, have already decided that it's not for you. And I'm praying that belief starts to bubble up. But here's the awesome part. It doesn't end there. We do live in a time where we are addicted to self-discovery. We are addicted to self-enlightenment. Do this quiz, do this thing, decide who you are, discover who you are, what number on the Enneagram, what spiritual gifts do you have, what's your Myers-Briggs, and here's what happens. All interesting things, but not if we return back to the winepress. And I think there are people in this room, as I pray for you, that you did hear from God. You know it was him. You even believed it was for you. Like you sat in a room, you sat in a moment like, man, like I feel seen by God. I have heard something. He has said something. It was for me, not my spouse, not my kids. Like I know God is doing something in my life. And then you crawled back into the wine press and kept walking in circles. God did not show up to Gideon for self-discovery. God did not show up to Gideon for self-enlightenment so that he could return back to the old familiar thing. God showed up to Gideon to get him to hear it, to get him to believe it, and then get him to walk in it. Israel only benefited from the word of the Lord because Gideon walked in it. Some of you are not fully experiencing the goodness of God because you are settling for hearing and believing but not walking. You can't know about real faith until you risk by faith. You can't know what it means for God's provision to find you if you don't run to the edge of yourself and watch God provide for you. You can't experience full love and forgiveness if you won't first confess the ugliness of your sin. And if we hear and believe and stop with walking, we don't actually discover who God actually is. It's in the walking that we discover who God is. Which is why in Ephesians, Paul masterfully writes the first 3 chapters on the gospel. The world's busted. We couldn't find our way back to God. Jesus steps in by his grace, by his blood. He pours on the gospel in chapters 1, 2, and 3. How cool would it be if the book just ended? Therefore, neat, eh? Chapter 4 says, therefore, if you have heard and believed the gospel that I have told you, if that's true, therefore walk in a manner worthy of your calling. It's in the walking when it explodes and takes root. I'm praying for some people in our church who I believe have heard. They know God's calling them. They know God's got a purpose, got a plan, but the legs feel paralyzed. Oh, that you would step out of the winepress like Gideon and actually watch what God can do with a willing and humble servant. What if you're not where you are in life by accident? What if you're not a mistake? What if this week matters? What if this Tuesday was set aside by God for divine purposes? And he's speaking to you because he wants you to meet him there. What might Southwest Nova look like if a few hundred people hear the voice of God, believe, and crawl out of some wine presses?